You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do? Doctor, will it be okay? You got the kind of stuff that makes my day. Doctor on the air, you got me rattled. Doctor on the air.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful summer. Thank you all for tuning in. Sadly, this Cyclospora outbreak is not over, and in fact, it looks like it's already taken some lives. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has announced this week that 2 people within Michigan with significant underlying health conditions have died in connection with the outbreak of the intestinal illness cyclosporiasis caused by the Cyclospora parasite. According to the Department of Health, they said the 2 deaths have been identified as part of the cyclosporiasis outbreak affecting Michigan. Now, Michigan has been the state with, I believe, the most cases. We can't say it's ground zero because there's multiple outbreaks going on right now with Cyclospora. One link was iceberg lettuce, but Cyclospora happens every year during this time of year because the parasite likes the nooks and crannies of berries and the little crevices and lettuce, and the surface area of shredded lettuce is much more than a single piece when you have those little pieces. So we usually see Cyclospora outbreaks every year, but the degree of this one is a lot larger. I believe there's been over 11,234 cases in Michigan alone. Ohio has about 4,000 cases. Now, hospitalizations are still going up. Even though cyclosporiasis is generally not a life-threatening illness, death could still happen if you're vulnerable. And Cyclospora has now been found in at least 45 states. I think we've been a little slow to get that data because many people have been calling telemedicine companies and getting treated and not tested. Most telemedicine companies say, you got to get tested. The CDC needs to know the case count. But other people are saying, I need an antibiotic. So they're asking for it. They're looking up the antibiotics on ChatGPT. Then they're calling up with something different, getting that antibiotic and self-treating. So I think, I wouldn't be surprised if there were cases in all states. It's just we might not know about it. But as of Monday, so a couple days ago, there's been 11,234 cases of cyclosporiasis reported in Michigan alone, 4,000 in Ohio. And in terms of other states, the numbers are coming in. So, why would somebody die from this parasite? Well, your body is very, very smart. And we've talked about why diarrhea happens. When your body detects something that shouldn't be, whether it's a virus, whether it's a bacteria, whether it's a parasite, it will draw fluid from the intestine because the intestine knows how to suck up fluid. We can also draw from it to flush it out. And so the body will try its hardest. And since you get Cyclospora from fecal-oral route, you ingest it, the body feels that it's going to take hold in the intestine, and then it'll flush it out. The problem is the immune response that could follow. If the body doesn't know that it flushed it all out, or it still thinks it's there, or now it's, opened up Pandora's box, you could continue flushing and get extremely dehydrated. If you lose your fluids, now that can cause other end organ damage. We need to get a little bit more data as to how these people died. Did they die because they lost so much electrolytes? I apologize. Like electrolytes, when you do have diarrhea, not only do you lose water, but you lose your potassium and magnesium and other salts. If you lose too much of your salts, that can then cause you to have abnormal heart rhythms, right? If you can't eat, now you have malnourishment. You're not metabolizing your medications correctly. So there's a lot of different things that could happen to somebody who has a horrible intestinal illness. And I've seen people really crump and get extremely, extremely sick. Cyclospora or cyclosporiasis usually doesn't kill, but it has that potential. The problem is here we are months into this outbreak, having over 11,000 cases in one state alone. We don't have the average person getting tested. We don't know the numbers. I think it is a lot bigger. And it's interesting because I drive by Taco Bells and other Mexican restaurants and fast food, and you don't see the drive-through line as busy as you see the McDonald's and the In-N-Out. I think people are starting to panic. And I've always told you guys the fast food places or these convenient food places that try to sell fresh ingredients and vegetables often are the ones behind the eight ball as it relates to infectious disease and foodborne illness. Like, that's why you heard a lot about Chipotle in the news before COVID. Now, they've really stepped things up, and you don't hear a lot of foodborne illness. But remember, Chipotle was in the news almost every week. And I don't know what it was ever found with that, but because they use fresh ingredients, there was a lot of questions as to, well, wait a second, how do we know these fresh ingredients are not carrying bacteria and parasites? Whereas places like McDonald's and In-N-Out, if they're not using a lot of fresh ingredients, they could be. But, if a lot of their, your quarter pounder with cheese has the slivered onions could still, have, a bacteria and parasites on them. But if they aren't having the shredded lettuce on those, you might not hear as many issues. The Big Mac, I think, has shredded lettuce. So these other fast food places do. But it depends on their quality assurance. It depends on how they address their foodborne pathogens, their hand washing, etc. So any place, the point I'm trying to make is any of these locations could serve as a potential source. Even your own home cooked food. This is why we have you watch your vegetables. I'll sometimes buy pre-washed broccoli, pre-washed spinach. You should still wash that. How do you know it was washed thoroughly? How do you know something didn't get into the vacuum seal bag? Wash it. Oh, it's not. It's not sterile. So I would be a lot more diligent with that. Many of you are very, very frustrated. You're having diarrhea, so you're calling up the telemedicine companies. They won't treat you over the phone. Again, for us to diagnose you with a parasite versus norovirus versus E. coli versus traveler's diarrhea, it's difficult because they really need to know the numbers and the cases. And telemedicine, even though it's helping people get access, it is kind of interfering with the epidemiological studies that need to be done. And so you would have to call your doctor or go to an urgent care to get tested. Don't let this diarrhea go. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm losing weight. This is wonderful. I'm feeling great. I wouldn't have that attitude towards this. It's dangerous. Now that we know it's causing hospitalizations, can kill people. And I'm really worried that people are going to undernourish and stay away from vegetables completely. Just wash your vegetables and be careful eating out. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799 and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So some of you probably saw this article saying one session, just a single session of brisk walking per week could shed just as much fat as 3 weekly workouts. And I'm sure many people are looking at that going, great, I don't have to do the 150 minutes a week that's being recommended, and I could just work out once. I did a lot of housework on the weekend. I'm good. No, you're not. But I'll tell you what this study said. The scientists from the University of Hong Kong looked at specifically interval walking, which a workout that involves very fast walking interspersed with short periods of rest, where you go fast and you stop, and you go fast and you stop. And they did a 4-month trial, according to Daily Mail, looking at 315 adults with abdominal obesity. And the abdominal obesity is the dangerous type of fat. We call it visceral fat, where it surrounds the stomach and abdomen. And visceral fat harms our health more than fat on our arms and legs because it surrounds vital organs, raises our risk of heart disease, diabetes, other major illnesses. So having that big waist, having the fatty deposits around your major organs, not good. So in the study, the participants were assigned to one of 3 groups. One group completed a 75-minute session of walking interval training a week for the study period. Another group split that 75-minute session into 3 workouts across the week. Another acted as a control group and did no exercise at all. The researchers measured the body fat using a bone density scan, which gives an accurate measurement of fat to muscle ratio. The scientists measured total body fat mass, body fat percentage, and waist circumference 3 times before participants started the study, immediately afterwards, and then again 4 months after it ended. And then the study was published in the journal Nature Communications, and it found that at the 16-week assessment, both of those groups that were doing the interval training showed similar improvement. So it suggested that total exercise volume may matter more than how that exercise is spread across the week. There were no significant changes in blood pressure or cholesterol, So the authors think that maybe it's because the participants' level was already fairly normal at the start. Now, the waistline reductions persisted for at least 4 months after the exercise program ended, although the fat loss and weight loss advantages faded by that point. So the researchers concluded that once weekly interval training may be feasible and effective alternative for people who struggle to fit multiple exercise sessions into their schedules. You know, really, people, you can't fit in exercise every day. The day is long. And I worked a lot, and I worked in hospitals, and I took the stairs. Then instead of the elevator, I wouldn't take the shortcut to the room. I'd walk around. I would, on my break, walk. There's ways to increase your steps and increase your activity. Professor Paco Su Ming Fai, the study's lead researcher at the University of Hong Kong, said while thrice weekly interval training remains a commonly recommended approach for the therapeutic management of obesity, our findings show that once weekly interval training offers similar benefits and represents a practical exercise strategy. They say for many adults with central obesity who struggle to balance work, study, family, and other commitments, time constraints are a primary barrier to exercising multiple times per week. There's been studies looking at you only need 10 minutes. Just try and get 10 minutes in. Switching subjects here. Breastfeeding. There's a lot of women that say, I can't do it. I'm going to have to be back at work. I can't breastfeed. I only got 2 weeks off with my first child and 3 days off with the second. I still did the breastfeeding and the pumping. Now, I made less milk, but as long as I could get the baby some antibodies, every little bit counts. And what I've done in my life is had that attitude, every little bit counts. Now, am I of my ideal weight? Absolutely not. And I really need to be in the gym longer. And I do need to exercise more. But I do exercise a lot, a lot. I'm hiking, I'm walking, I'm working out, I'm treadmilling, I'm lifting weights. But genetics doesn't seem to be as with me, and my metabolism isn't with me like it used to be. But I've always worked out. Even when I was on bed rest, and I was put on bed rest when I was pregnant, I still worked out in bed. I mean, I just always moved because I knew if I don't keep my muscles up, my metabolism will go down. I need to build my muscle. I need to keep my muscle up. I need to keep moving. And so we need to find ways to move. Have one of those little cycles underneath your desk where while you're working, you could cycle. But these studies saying, you could get away with just one workout a week. That's, I think, too little because your body needs exercise. Your body was never designed to sit in the cave as a caveman for 24 hours. Your body was designed to hunt, gather, get up, to go to the bathroom, chase the kid, go and fish, climb the tree, grab the fruit. You were designed to move. And those who don't move don't do well. So to think that you could do that 6 days a week and only one day move, no, that's not healthy. And that's why I don't really like these studies. Now, I get what they're saying. If you're only fitting in one workout on the weekend, that's going to still be worth something. And I credit them for that. Let's say your friend says, look, I want you to come out and play pickleball this Saturday. And you go and you play pickleball for an hour or two. That's going to be a good workout. Don't break any bones because people are breaking bones now playing pickleball. But that's going to be a good workout. But that doesn't mean you get to then blow off exercise the rest of the week. But what this does tell you is try to do some activity on the weekend. If that's your time off, walk the dogs, do more housework. Go and check on the neighbors. Don't drive up to your mailbox. There's a lot of things you could do to stay active. When it comes to laundry, let's say you have a laundry room, maybe rather than trying to carry everything and everything fall on the ground as you're going back to your apartment or going back to where the laundry goes, why don't you go piece by piece? Find little ways to add extra moves. You want to walk over to the kitchen to bring your plate and your fork and your spoon. Bring your fork, then go back, bring your plate, go back, bring your cup. Put some music on and dance to the music. If there's a commercial or an ad break while watching a movie, get up and walk back and forth in your room. We talk about pedometer readings and how the 10,000 steps was a marketing strategy back in the 60s during I believe, the Tokyo Olympics by a pedometer company that wanted to sell pedometers saying you need 10,000 steps. It wasn't scientifically sound. But I love that number, 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps is not hard to do. Make yourself that goal. And if you're getting ready to go to bed and you're only at 8,500, it only takes a few minutes to get those extra 1,500 steps. Walk back and forth. If you think that's going to rev you up, then make sure the next day you're doing your steps in the morning so you could feel confident that you could go to sleep. It kills me that we're trying to find shortcuts to doing something that our body needs. We're driving, we're taking buses. We're parking right up to the door of where we work, or we're parking in our garage or carport or right next to our apartment. I was just in New York twice, actually, and boy, are people more slender there. Why? Because they're walking everywhere. They're biking everywhere. But for those of us who live more rural or suburban, we're driving everywhere. We're not exercising. The only way we're going to lose weight or keep our weight down is not eating crap that affects and changes our metabolism, eating smaller portions, eating healthier, clean, single ingredient foods, and moving more. These GLP-1s, they're only temporary, making people not think of food noise. Yeah, I watched that Rebel, I think her name is Rebel Wilson? She's losing weight. She's doing, I think, Row or one of these online GLP-1 sort of things, and you see her riding a bike and someone's offering her rocky road, they're offering her food, and she's able to deal with the food noise. I think those medications work really, really well with that until your body gets used to it. You're going to have to come up with then a plan when these GLP-1s stop working, and for everybody, I think it happens, or you can't afford it anymore because they're too expensive, even at $500 a month. So build that muscle. Keep exercising. And I love that she's exercising and she's talking about making good food choices, because you can't just rely on the shot. You can't just rely on exercising once a day. My problem with exercising is I want to roller skate, I want to bike ride, and I'm falling. Okay, I don't want to break anything. Pickleball. My husband almost broke a bone playing pickleball. So you're going to have to find exercise that you could do with longevity. And that's why I like walking, especially the brisk walking. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So you can't make this stuff up. So in New York City, you know how they want to do those government-run grocery stores where they're going to be providing staples of food at 30% off. Other options at the store may be still regular price, but they want eggs and fruit and meat and fish and cheese, milk to be 30% off. Yeah, well, that's great. It sounds beautiful, all these socialist ideas seem to make people salivate going, oh, look at all these goodies, look at all these, free healthcare and free bus rides and student loans being written off. They make it all sound good until you start to look at the practicality of it. So then questions come up going, okay, so you have these stores where everything's 30% off. And we've had in the history books, some of these stores never have enough supply because somebody buys out the cheaper stuff, either resells it or stocks up on it. So, excuse me, when Mayor Mamdani in New York was asked about that, how are you going to ensure that the people who this is for is going to be able to take advantage of it? Well, that's going to involve some sort of ID. Now, this coming from the same group of individuals who are anti-voter ID. It's it's just ridiculous. It's the hypocrisy, man. So, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani earlier this week said what they're going to use is a, quote, library card-esque system to be employed to prevent abuse at these markets. You see, this is an example of promising without looking at the ramifications and understanding the infrastructure of it. So a reporter asked about how are they going to prevent bulk purchases of groceries at the artificial discount from being resold at MSRP or higher, according to Fox News. So the mayor responded that the government grocery request for proposal makes clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. And then passed it over to his EDC head, Jenny Pack, to add additional details. So then she said, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be a sort of library card-esque thing, and also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. She said, so we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that does not happen. Well, if that's the case, that would mean some sort of ID. When asked about the apparent divergence, according to Fox News, between PAC's response referencing a possible ID card system and opposition to voter ID, a Mandami spokesperson said it was an apples to orange contrast. They said comparisons to voter ID laws or the SAVE Act simply do not apply. This is not an identification system, nor is it a mechanism to verify who someone is, where they live, or how much they earn, even though they just doxed close to 1 million apartment owners for that pied-à-terre tax. So according to Mondami's spokesperson, they said it is a practical inventory management tool to ensure affordability groceries remain available for the people who need them instead of being cleared off shelves for resale. They say the spokesperson pointed to the mayor's comments specifically regarding bulk buying concerns, saying that the premise of the reporter's question, not whether people from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or upstate New York will be able to shop at the subsidized outlets. So they said, to be absolutely clear, New York City grocery stores will be open to everyone. There will be no system to verify identity, residency, or income, and no one will be asked to show ID to shop. Well, then how are you ensuring you're helping the individuals who need the help? Okay, we have seen people take advantage of discounts. And I mean, somebody could very easily drive to that borough, jump out of the car, say, ride around the block a couple times, go and get their groceries. Come out. I mean, are they going to limit how much milk you can buy? How are they going to, the whole purpose of this is to help the very New Yorkers who need the financial assistance, unless that's really what they don't want to do. Is it that they want to make all these promises, this DSA group, and say, look, we made good on it, whether it works or not? And say, yes, it is helping people. People are getting cheaper groceries. Well, yeah, is it the people who need the cheaper groceries, or is it the people taking advantage? They might not have to worry about that. They, in their mind, might be, look, we just have to make the grocery stores, get them rolled out as quickly as possible, show that they're giving 30% off discounts, and then we could say we're in the clear. And that's not the way you govern. So instead of the ID, what they might do is something like a customer card, similar to loyalty programs at other grocers like ShopRite or Food Lion or Weis. So the customer card would be designed by the private operator of the city-run store to help manage supply, prevent people from buying large quantities of discounted staples for resale, and is strictly intended to make sure the savings reach families putting food on the table. Yeah, but don't you need, for a customer card, don't you need ID? So this is ludicrous. And listen, I want people to get as I've been a big fan of the WIC program, where if somebody needs milk or fish or staples, they could go into the store, show their WIC card, and actually get the milk, actually get the food. I love the idea of individuals and families who don't have the funds to feed their family to actually get the food to feed their family. I support that entirely. But the hypocrisy is ridiculous. And so the DSA has put themselves into a corner where if they're so anti-voter ID, then, how are they, identifying who gets to, take advantage of all the goodies they want to give. Now, when it comes to the city buses, it's just going to be whoever wants to ride the bus can ride it for free. So they're going to try to get away from the ID that way. But what's happening then with the city buses? Well, people who need, a warm area to sleep or need to be in the cool, homeless people are going to be, sleeping and living on the buses. And this is something that we have found in the past happen. So then the average person is not going to be able to use the bus for commutes. So it's what they want to do and what they claim they can do in theory is not very practical. And then the bodegas and the small business grocery stores, they're going to be hurting as a result of these. How are they going to compete with a local borough grocery store that's selling food at 30% less? Now, we all believe that the supply is going to run low, where they're not going to be able to have enough stock. So somebody next to one of these stores will probably do well because somebody's going to go in, want to get their 30% off milk or 30% off meat. It's going to be gone. Somebody will have already bought it up. So they're going to have to go to the store next to them or the bodega to go and get the food they need. So most likely, I think, if the stores are run as poorly as they have before, I think the small business owners, especially since there's only 5 of these stores that are going to be in the whole entire city of New York City, I think small business will do okay. In the long run, if this grows, they could get killed. They could just completely get priced out of the market. And when the Democratic Socialists are all about going after the rich, who's protecting then the small business owner that's trying to make a living and has very high overhead and, minimum profit, selling basic food and groceries. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. It's a joke what the DSA wants to do, and it doesn't look like they thought things through. And I'm glad the reporters are challenging them on it. I want people to get the food they need. I want people to get the nutrition they need. But you can't be hypocritical when it comes to ID. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the fraud doesn't cease. Federal state officials are expected to announce another healthcare fraud scheme and a significant crackdown thanks to the diligence that we have with this administration looking for this waste, fraud, and abuse. And we're being told that officials with the Department of Justice and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services are going to speak later today about some of their anti-fraud initiatives and what they found. This latest takedown is coming out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday is expected to be joined by representatives from the Federal Department of Justice as well as Dr. Mohammed Oz. administrator for the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. The press conference is supposed to be scheduled for this morning at a federal building in Philly. Last year, according to Fox 43, state and federal prosecutors announced charges against more than 300 people in connection to $15 billion. $15 billion worth of false claims orchestrated by international crime syndicates. And then earlier this year, Dr. Oz announced a nationwide audit of Medicaid programs, saying that his agency plans to require states to take more responsibility in combating healthcare fraud. It blows my mind that this isn't already done. According to Dr. Oz, he said it's an example of what would like them to do to prove that they're serious about this. And if you don't take it seriously, it indicates to us that we might have to take the audits that we're doing to the different states more aggressively. So with what's going on in Philadelphia, we're going to be getting more details a little bit later today, but there were, I believe, again, false claims, ghost visits that were billed for. And we believe that one of the culprits was even doing this out of jail. I'm just blown away that, when I took care of patients with Medicare and Medicaid, I mean, as with any other insurance HICFA form, we made sure that we were using the utmost accuracy, because the consequences, not only from a criminal standpoint, but also from a logistical standpoint and from a patient care standpoint, is disastrous. If you bill incorrectly, if you bill inappropriately, if you get audited or committed or accused of fraud, it's just an absolute mess. And so you just don't mess. You don't do it wrong. But when there's lack of oversight, and this is what we had in the previous administration and the previous few years, where whoever was in charge didn't care. They didn't monitor the border. They didn't look at people's past criminal records. They didn't look at, voter ID and SNAP benefit. They just completely ignored, all avenues where individuals could take advantage and find susceptibilities and vulnerabilities in the systems, and such that now we've had so many people take advantage for years, we have to unroot it. And unroot it and pull it out by the roots is very, very difficult, especially when we're barely finding the little leaves of the tree. Yeah, I'm trying out some new metaphors here. And so what ends up happening whenever something like this happens is then the honest, innocent people like the patients or the medical providers now have more hoops to go through, more work. Now that there's more scrutiny, you're going to have some individuals say, you know what? All right, that's fine, but I don't have the staff. I don't have the manpower. I don't want to be accused of fraud. So I'm just going to not take Medicare. I'm just going to not take Medicaid. And we're hearing a rise in medical providers avoid using government-run healthcare so that they don't get caught up in this mess. Now, there's the individuals that are actually committing fraud. And then there's the individuals who are doing good, but now they're going to have much more oversight, much more documentation, much more burdensome red tape and bureaucracy. Why? Because the bad people screwed it up for the good people. And so the people who are really getting hurt are the patients, the ones with Medicare, the ones with Medicaid. Medicaid was a real pain in the butt. I remember early on in the early 2000s where patients would get Medicaid eligible, but it didn't mean that they were going to have Medicaid pay for their care. And so doctors were not getting paid. So what did doctors end up doing? Saying, well, look, we're just not taking Medicaid. And so you had Medicaid patients scrambling for doctors who would take their cases. So nobody's going to cry a river or play a violin for doctors, but and I don't want people to, but whenever we have a system that really starts to affect how patients can access healthcare, that's going to be. Let me just switch gears for a quick second on how this fraud happens and why it's so rampant. When a doctor is legitimate and seen or a nurse practitioner or a PA, they're seeing a patient, they order a test, they administer care, they document, and they have to document very, very thoroughly. And that documentation doesn't mean that the visit happened at 100%, but you have a lot of checks and balances in terms of, well, the patient came in, the patient checked in, the patient provided payment, the patient had an exam, a nurse did vitals. So there's multiple people involved. There's witnesses that saw the patient. You took care of the patient. You documented. Sometimes we'll have a chaperone in the room saying, yes, I saw the procedure, witnessed the procedure. Patient gets a prescription. They go and get that prescription. There's a pharmacy or a medical supply company. And so there's many people involved in that train of care, such that when a person goes from point A to point Z, there's enough proof that that care was given. What's happening with these fraud cases is they're submitting claims on work that was never done, either with a fake patient or with a patient that says, yeah, go ahead and use my name. I'll say you saw me. But the fraud can be anywhere from you not having done the service to you doing an unnecessary service to you overdoing a service for you charging for repeated services. The fraud is so general that there's many ways that people might think they're trying to evade the system, but they're still screwing the system and screwing the taxpayers over. And so anybody involved in that obviously is complicit and should have criminal charges against them. Unfortunately, some of the victims within this are the actual patients. So the patient goes into the medical provider, thinks, okay, I'm just having my regular medical visit done. I'm getting my burn care done, or I'm getting my medical supplies, or I'm getting my treatment. And then the doctor decides to go, yeah, I had to see them 3 times this week, or I had to, in addition, give them something else to take home. And the patient is just unaware. So somebody asks the patient, did you see this doctor? Yeah, I saw the doctor. Did he take care of you? Yes, he did. Did you get X, Y, and Z? Well, I thought I did. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. And so when they start to slip in extra charges or when people are fraudulent or criminal, they start out small and they see what they could get away with, or they could sandwich in the fraud. And then some of them go, you know what? Nobody's looking. Nobody's paying attention. And then they just outright go blatant. And unfortunately, we're only finding the blatant cases. And so when I hear, time after time that we're finding $315 billion in fraud, or $715 million, or all these different, I think in Chicago prosecutors have indicted 2 people for $315 million in fraudulent billing. That's just in Chicago, and this was reported about 6 weeks ago. When you hear of these cases, it's the ones that are rampant, and you wonder how much of the mild, subtle, I don't want to say mild, none of it is mild, but the more subtle, covert fraud is being done, where people are starting to dip their toe into the fraud water. And so unfortunately, the fraud is very easy to do. And I know people are talking about the honor system. It's really not an honor system. An honor system is just take my word for it. No, you're supposed to document. If you're giving a medical supply, there's a sticker on that, and you're supposed to write the code or put that code in the chart. There's always a paper trail. You're supposed to be doing the paper trail. Some people are plain dumb. They're not being very diligent. They're like, oh, woe is me. Oh, I forgot to put that down, or the patient forgot to take it, or oops, my bad. But no, fraud means there's intent, and there's recurrence, and there's malice, and so it's pretty easy to find. 1-877-DOC-DALIA. Don't go away.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.